योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः हरिः ओम. So last time we looked at the last sutra of the second chapter, and with that we finished our second chapter, the Sadhana Pada. Today, before we start with the third chapter, the Vibhuti Pada, let us take a quick overview of the things covered in the Sadhana Pada. So going back to the beginning of the Sadhana Pada, that began after the last sutra of the Samadhi Pada. Samadhi Pada, the first chapter. So the last sutra of the Samadhi Pada was Tasyapi Nirodhe Sarva Nirodhan Nirbijah Samadhi. So Samadhi Pada, the first chapter, had culminated with the ultimate Samadhi, the Nirbija Samadhi, the Sampragnata Nirbija Samadhi, and that chapter had given us a very detailed account of the fundamental principles of the yoga philosophy, as well as a point of view for the highest caliber of the yogi, the Uttamadhikari. And it had covered things like Samapatti, Samadhi, etc. In quite some fascinating detail. And after that, we had begun with Sadhana Pada, the second chapter. Sadhana, as we had discussed, the meaning is means. Means and tools. The means to arrive at something. Those are sadhanani, the sadhanas. And therefore, Sadhana Pada refers to the means towards the accomplishment of yoga. So that a Sadhana Pada, as we had seen, began with Tapasvadhyayeshvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. So it introduced a term called Kriya Yoga. And as we had discussed, with this, the text had started addressing the Madhyamadhikari Yogi. So what is known as the middle caliber. Now all of these references to Adhikari and caliber, it is much beyond what our level is. So even when we say Madhyamadhikari, these are extremely highly exalted yogis. But there is one more tier above that called Uttamadhikari. That was in the first chapter. So we have discussed all of this. I'm just giving an overview. So tapas, swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhanam. These three things constitute Kriya Yoga, it said. Now then it said, why this Kriya Yoga? Samadhi Bhavanarthaha Klesha Tanu Karanarthascha. So what is the purpose of Kriya Yoga? It was to bring about Samadhi and to attenuate the difficulties in the path of yoga, the kleshas, to remove them. It said, to remove or actually to enfeeble them. That is the role of Kriya Yoga. So now with the second sutra, Samadhi Bhavanartha Klesha Tanu Karanarthascha, a new term called Klesha got introduced. So now, what is this Klesha? So the next subsection begins delineating these Kleshas. So it begins with Avidya, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha, Abhiniveshaha, Kleshaha. The 5 Kleshas enumerated in the third sutra. And then Avidya had a special place, as said in the fourth sutra, Avidya Kshetram Uttaresham. So it is the Kshetra, it is the field where all the other Kleshas take birth. So, or sprout themselves. So Avidya is an underlying Klesha for everything that comes next, Asmita, Raga, Dvesha and Abhinivesha. And then the further sutras went on to define each of the Kleshas. Anitya, Shuchi, Dukkha, Anatmasu, Nitya, Shuchi, Sukha, Atmakhyatira Vidya, Of course, we won't go into the detail here, but taking impermanent as permanent, etc., is avidya. And then here we had discussed that, therefore, avidya has a direct correlation with viparyaya vritti, which was dealt in the first chapter under the chitta vritti section. Because we had seen viparyayo mithya jnanam atadrupa pratishtham. And this avidya is exactly that. But then we discussed what is the difference between that coming as a viparya vritti and that coming as a klesha. And you can refer to those sessions. So there is a direct connection between the kleshas and the viparya vritti, and yet the term klesha refers to something different. That is chitta mala. And the term vritti refers to something different. That is the state of the chitta in terms of the cognitive imprint. And we have discussed that in depth. Then, after avidya, drik darshana shaktyor ekatmateva asmita. So, the seeming oneness between the drik shakti, the shakti that sees, darshana shakti, the seen, the between those two, the seeing instrument and the seeing agent, confusing the two is asmita. And then we discussed exactly what that means and how to understand it. And sukhanushayi ragaha, raga, desire, as a klesha. Dukkhanushayi dvesha, hatred. What does it mean? Dvesha, what does it mean? Then swarasavahi vidushopi tadarudo abhinivesha. What is abhinivesha? And how this abhinivesha, the clinging to life, how it also brings out this evidence of the imprints of the experience of death in the previous birth, etc. is something we had discussed. Now, having seen the 5 kleshas, the sutra te pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha dhyanaheyas tadvrittayaha. So this couple of sutras says what to do about these kleshas. So it brings out dhyana as a way to remove them. Dhyanaheyas tadvrittayaha. But remove what? It doesn't talk about the klesha. It says dhyana can remove the vrittis generated by these kleshas. Dhyanaheyas tadvrittayaha. And then te pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha. In their subtle form, the kleshas that remain in the chitta, that will go away when the chitta itself dissolves into prakriti. So pratiprasava, the reverse evolution, the reverse of evolution of the chitta, where it goes back into the source. That is when the kleshas ultimately go away. Because there is a question, if something is there, it cannot simply vanish. What happens? And that is answered by the 2 sutras, te pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha and dhyanaheyas tadvrittayaha. And then a very, very interesting subsection began, which is about the karma siddhanta. Because it says, klesha mulaha karmashayo drishta drishta janma vedaniyaha. So there is this thing called the karmashaya, the whole collection of imprints and tendencies arising from the karmas done over several births from time without beginning. So all of that was karmashaya. And drishta drishta janma vedaniyaha. When is the fruit of that karma to be experienced? Some of them may be in the same birth where the karma was done. In some cases it could be in a different birth. Then in some cases it could be a fixed. The fruition is fixed. In some cases fruition may not be fixed. Yogi may be able to manage this karma so that he can choose when those karmas can fructify. For example, he may choose to have unpleasant karma fructify with a very, very pleasant karma so that its pain is not felt as much, etc., etc. And we had seen this in a lot of detail in Vyasa's commentary. So, klesha mulaha karmashayo drishta drishta janma vedaniyaha. Sutra 2.12 is where the karma siddhanta begins. And sati mule tadvipako jatyayur bhogaha. So, what is the nature of the fruition? When sati mule, which means when this mula, when the kleshas exists. So, which also gives a beautiful view into the karma is operative only as long as the kleshas exist. If you counter the kleshas through yoga, the karma and its fruition is not effective anymore. So, sati mule, when the mula in the form of kleshas exist, then the fruition is of what nature? Jati, ayu and bhoga. Jati means the type of birth. Which life form? Ayu, the span of life, Bhoga, the experiences in that life. So these three are sort of governed by the fruition of the karmas that have been accumulated in the karmashaya. And within that accumulation, we have discussed sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, kriyamana karma, etc. Which again, we don't go into detail right now since this is an overview. Then, what is the type of this vipaka? Vipaka means fruition. So the 2.14 said, Te lada paritapa phalaha punya punya hetutvat. They may be either pleasant, happiness giving, grace giving, or causing torment. Why? Because they might have arisen from a karma which was meritorious, punya, or not meritorious and against meritorious, apunya. So because those are the causes, the fruition are of the corresponding nature. Okay. Then 2.15 said, how does the yogi view all this? All the karmas, the fruition, the karmashaya, etc. So for a viveki, a yogi who understands, so parinama tapa samskara dukkhair gunavritti virodacha dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. So for a viveki who is able to discriminate, who has the discriminative wisdom, for him the phala, the vipaka, the fruition, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, tormenting, in the ultimate analysis, everything is dukkham, everything is sorrow giving. And we saw that. Why? We saw that it is not sorrow giving in the sense of the yogi being sad, because the viveki yogi, he is not given to normal emotions like happiness, sorrow, etc., like normal people or children. The viveki yogi, he says dukkham eva sarvam because he realizes that whether the fruition, if it is happy, that is going to lead to certain desire for happiness, which is going to increase activity, again lead to karma. So the karmashaya is going to increase. If it is sad, it may lead to sorrow, hatred, again more karma, possibly apunya deeds, again the karmashaya increases. So for such a viveki, this whole cycle is going to lead to good deed, good fruition, pleasure, attachment, desire, more deeds, more fruition, etc. Or bad deed, unpleasant fruition, sorrow, hatred, more deeds, maybe non-meritorious, more karmashaya, and this cycle goes on forever. And therefore he says dukkhameva sarvam for the viveki. Now what to do about this? Now the Sutra 2.16 comes by saying heyam dukkham anagatam. So the dukkham that is yet to come, we have to slot it to the heya category. What is heya? Heya is something that one must get rid of. So what is the heya? It is the anagata dukkham, the dukkham that has not yet come. So here begins a subsection where a beautiful analogy is drawn between the science of yoga, the Yoga Shastra, and the science of medicine. Because in the science of medicine, a certain problem condition is identified, that is heya, the disease. Then that is diagnosed to find what caused this disease or the problem condition. That diagnosis is heya hetu, that cause is heya hetu. Then there is a concept of the state of health where the problem is gone away. That is known as hanam, which normally is known as health or arogyam. In the case of yoga, the parallel is moksha. And then how to bring about this health? That is known as hanopayaha. So that in the science of medicine, the analogy is what is the treatment, and here how the yogic practices can bring about the hanam, the moksha. So the four pillars of the science of medicine, that there is an analogy drawn with the Yoga Shastra. And the first one, the disease condition, the problem condition, it is said heyam is dukkham anagatam, 2.16. 2.17 says drashtra drishyoho sanyogo heya hetuhu. What is the cause of this problem condition, the dukkha? It is the sanyoga between the drashtru, the seer, and drishya, the seen. There is a certain specific type of coming together, sanyoga, and that causes this dukkha, that causes this problem. Okay, so two new terms, drashta and drishya. have been introduced, then they are defined. Prakasha kriya sthitishīlam bhutendriyatmakam bhogapavargartham drishyam. So the scene category is described. What is it? It has the nature of, Sheela means nature. It has the nature of Prakasha, Kriya and Sthiti. Luminosity or knowledge, activity, Kriya, Sthiti, inertia. Then what is it made of? Bhutendriyatmakam, the elements of earth, water, fire, etc. And Indriyas, the ability to sense them. So Bhuta and Indriya, those together. And what is the purpose? So here the purpose, the teleology of the creation. What is the purpose of the creation? Bhogapavargartham. It is purely for the seer, the Purusha, to undergo experiences, that is bhoga, or apavarga, for it to move away from the creation to the state of moksha, kaivalya, liberation. So bhoga apavargartham drishyam. So in one wonderful sutra, the entire synopsis of what is this creation, what is this samsara, what is this prakriti, has been described by Sutra 2.18. Then, once that has been described, the underlying tenets of how this comes about in the Sankhya Yoga system, that is described by saying Vishesha Vishesha Linga Matra Alingani Gunaparvani. So here from the primordial Prakriti, how everything evolves and what is under the Vishesha category, what is the Avishesha category, what is Linga Matram, what is Alingam, etc. is discussed, and we have gone through it in high detail. So all of this is part of the ontology, the underlying reality under this philosophical system. That is 2.19. Then after talking about Drishya, the scene, the Drashta, the seer, comes into picture, 2.20. Drashta Drishimatraha Shuddhopi Pratyayanupashyaha. So it says, this Drashta, who is the seer, even though completely pure. So firstly, the seer is unchanging, completely pure, but it is a Pratyaya Anupashyaha. It is as though it follows whatever cognitive imprint is there in the scene. So the scene here refers to the chitta, that instrument or that entity in the scene category which is closest to the Purusha. Chiti Shaktehe Pratamaha Sambandhaha Asya. That is how chitta is defined. So the first that is in closest relation is the chitta, and that chitta, whatever the cognitive imprint which is pratyaya is there in the chitta, that the Purusha as a seer follows that, sees that, echoes that, reflects that. So drashta drishimatraha shuddhopi pratyayanupashyaha. And then it says tadartha eva drishyasya atma. Tadartha eva drishyasya atma. And therefore that is the atma of the drishya. That is explained. That is why the drishya is meant for the seer. That is how it is explained. And to understand it in detail, you have to refer to that session where we dealt with all these sutras. Then comes some natural questions that may come in the mind of the reader. Those are answered in the further sutras. Kritartham pratinashtam api anashtam tadanya sadharanatvat saswami shaktyoho swarupopalabdhi hetuhu sanyogaha. So firstly, the nature of this kaivalya is described, and there are some doubts that may arise. Oh, in the state of kaivalya, does the world go away or does it remain? Does the creation vanish or not, etc. That is answered in Sutra 2.23, so Swami, the Kritartham Pratinashtam, etc. And then the Sanyoga, the Sanyoga was introduced as Heya Hetu, that which caused the problem, that the cause of the disease, so to speak. So where the disease is analogous to Heya, and here the Heya is Dukkham Anagatam. So there is a special type of a Sanyoga. So what is this? Swaswami Shaktyoho Swarupopalabdhi Hetuhu Sanyogaha. These are quite intricate things, so we won't go into detail. Then it says Tasya Hetur Avidya. So that Sanyoga is explained, and what leads to that Sanyoga is Avidya. So we circle back to the beginning of the mother of all the kleshas, Avidya Kshetram Uttaresham, etc. And then it comes back to avidya being the cause of that. And therefore we see the exalted place of avidya and the importance of understanding avidya. So having looked at heya and heya hetu, the next is hanam. What is the disease free, problem free condition? What is health, or what corresponds to health? Of health of medicine shastra, what corresponds to that in yoga shastra? It says tad abhavat sanyoga bhavo hanam tadrishehe kaivalyam. So that hanam is kaivalyam. So the second chapter again deals with kaivalyam. So then what is hanopaya? How do you get this state of kaivalyam? Then, or what is the corresponding thing in yoga shastra for the medicinal treatment of the medicine science? So it says viveka khyati aviplava hanopaya. It is the viveka khyati of a special pure kind, which we discussed. Then what happens in that case? Tasya saptada pranta bhumi prajna. So what is the nature of the exalted knowledge in the chitta at that state? So there are 7 levels. It's a saptadha pranta bhumi, 7 kinds of prantas, 7 kinds of states, which is discussed in 2.27, which we have dealt with in detail. So now having seen this, how do you arrive at this? So then Ashtanga Yoga begins by saying Yoganga Anushtanat Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deepti Raviveka Khyatehe. So it says, how does this happen? How do you come to this point of Viveka Khyati? It says, by Yoganga Anushtanam, by adopting the path of the Yogangas, by inculcating the Yogangas, the Angas of Yoga. And how? By Ashuddhikshaya, by the removal of impurities. And to what extent? By removal of impurities, the Jnana shines, Jnana Deepti, the light of knowledge will shine up to the point that it will bring about Viveka Khyati. It will bring about the realization of the difference between the Shuddha Sattva of the Chitta, even the purest form of the Chitta is still different from Purusha, and that difference will shine. That is Viveka Khyati. So, Viveka Khyate He, right up to Viveka Khyati, the Yogangas, the Angas of Yoga can bring that effect. So, the natural question is, what are these Yogangas? And then the Ashtanga Yoga begins by listing the Angas. So, Yama Niyama Asana Pranayama Pratyahara Dharana Dhyana Samadhayo Ashtavangani. So, the 8 Angas are listed. And then, one by one, each Angas, we saw them. For each Anga, we saw what is that Anga and what is the Siddhi, what is the fruit, or what is the result. So, the glorious result of having gained some mastery in that particular Anga of the Ashtanga Yoga. So, it begins with Yama, Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Parigraha, Yamaha. So, then for some further elaboration of what is a Yama and what makes it a Mahavratam. So we have seen that Yama is not just do's and don'ts, and it is not just, oh, you should not do this. It is more than that. It is of a nature of Vrata, which we had discussed. So then this Vrata becomes a Mahavrata if Jati Desha Kala Samayana Vachinnaha Sarvabhauma Mahavratam. Then the Niyamas are listed. Saucha Santosha Tapaswadhyayeshwara Pranidhanani Niyamaha. So Saucha, Santosha, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranam. These are the 5 Niyamas. Then a certain very interesting angle is brought in of Vitarka. So whenever Yama and Niyama are adopted and attempted, there are bound to be hurdles in the way. What to do in case of these hurdles? So those hurdles are Vitarkas. It says Vitarka Bhadane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. Now this Pratipaksha Bhavanam, to bringing a contrary point of view, is something that how to bring that about is we have discussed in that session. So Vitarka Bhadane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. And then what are these Vitarkas? Vitarka Himsadaya, Kritakarita, Anumodita, Lobha, Krodha, Moha Purvaka, Mrudu Madhyat, Adimatra, Dukkha, Jnana, Anantaphala, iti Pratipaksha Bhavanam. So what is how do you bring about this Pratipaksha Bhavanam? That is described by saying firstly we have to understand the Vitarkas and characterize the Vitarkas in a certain way, which will then culture our chitta to bring about the contrary point of view whenever there is a Vitarka that comes and pollutes the chitta. So after a slight digression for Vitarka Bhadanam, it comes back to discuss the Ashtangas by firstly taking each part of Yama and Niyama. So Sutra 2.35 and for following up to 2.39 discuss each of the yamas: ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Then Sutra 40 starts with shaucha, the first of the niyama, and 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45 discusses the five niyamas and the fruits of each of those. So here what is being discussed is once those, like if when ahimsa is accomplished, what happens? Satya is accomplished, what happens? Asteya is accomplished, what happens? And similarly for the five niyamas. So that goes up to Sutra 2.45 where it says Samadhi Siddhirishwara Pranidhanat, where again we have discussed some very interesting connections, several interesting insights have been discussed in those sessions. Then after Yama Niyama comes Asana. So Sthira Sukham Asanam, Prayatna Shaitilyananta Samapatibhyam. So these are two things that describe asanas, 2.47 and 2.48, where we saw what it is. What is this Sthira? What is this Sukha? What is Prayatna Shaitilya? What is Ananta Samapati? All of that has been discussed. And what is the fruit of the asana as an anga? Tato dvandva anabhidgataha. One is not affected by dualities. Now what does that mean? How is that to be understood is something we have discussed. Then that moves to pranayam. Tasmin sati shvasa prashvasayoho gati vichchedah pranayamaha. And this we have discussed in a lot of detail on what is prana, what is shvasa, what is Patanjali saying here, and how other texts have dealt with it. So then what are the different ways or different flavors, so to speak, of prana? Bhaya, abhyantara, stambha, vrittir, deshakala, sankhya, paridrushto, dirgha, sukshmaha. These are the three pranayamas. And then there is a fourth one, Bhaya, abhyantara, vishayakshepi, chaturthaha. So what does that mean? And there is reference here to Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, Kevala Kumbhaka, etc. that we have discussed. And then Sutra 2.52 onwards comes what is the accomplishment, the siddhi from pranayama by gaining some mastery. It says tatakshiyate prakashavaranam, the covering over the inner light that weakens through pranayama. So that we have discussed. What is this nature of this covering, prakashavaranam, that we have discussed. And then the other fruit of pranayama is dharana sucha yogyata manasaha. The manas is made worthy for dharana. Then having looked at pranayam, the next anga, so we had seen yama, niyama, asana, pranayam. The fifth is pratyahara. Svavishaya samprayoge chitta swarupanukara iva indriyanam pratyaharaha. And then tataha parama vashyata indriyanam. So we looked at what is this pratyahara and how is it different from the other practices of just gaining mastery over indriyas, the sense organs, and how pratyahara is different, and why is it the ultimate, the greatest mastery, parama vashyata. Why is it that we discussed in the previous session? That was the last sutra of the second chapter. And then we ended with Iti Patanjali Virachite Yoga Sutre Dvitiya Sadhana Padaha. So the Sadhana Pada ended in the middle of the exposition of the angas of yoga along with their siddhis or accomplishment, and it stopped at the threshold of what is known as the Bahya Angas, the external with respect to Sampragnata Samadhi. And then later in the third chapter, where in Vibhuti Pada, Patanjali will take us towards the Antarangas, the three Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, where Pratyahara, the threshold, was discussed in the second chapter. And then, just as the fruits or the siddhi from each of the angas have been described, here the siddhis of Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi are marvelous and large in number. And those are discussed together for all three by introducing a certain term called Sanyama. And all of those and the great siddhis, because they are so marvelous, that is known as Vibhuti. And therefore the third adhyaya is called Vibhuti Padaha. And so this was the overview of the second chapter before we begin on the third one, the Vibhuti Pada.
So the question was to a very curious mind. When Ashtanga Yoga has been mentioned in the last part of the Sadhana Pada, why is it that abruptly it has been ended at the Pratyahara? And since other three Ashtangas are yet to be described, such as Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, why is it that it has been taken to third chapter, and why that has not been discussed in Sadhana Pada itself when the enunciation to Ashtanga Yoga has been given? So, the answer to that is, yes, it has ended at Pratyahar. And in one sense, it has abruptly ended with Pratyahar. Only 5 out of 8 have been described. But the thing is that there is something classification called Bahiranga of Yoga and Antaranga of Yoga. And it is mistakenly taken as Bahiranga Sadhana and Antaranga Sadhana. That is a flaw. What Patanjali mentions that the 5 are Antaranga, are internal aspects of 5 are external aspects of yoga, and the next 3 are internal aspects of yoga. And therefore, there is a kind of logic behind ending the sadhana path with pratyahar and not including the 6th, 7th, and 8th limb, namely dharana, dhyana, samadhi in the sadhana path. Basically, because they are antarangas. So, about yoga, it should be understood that yoga primarily is of the nature of happenings and not doings. The doings are instrumental and later yoga happens. The effect of yoga is happening, and effects are usually happening in phenomenal world even. Now, up to this pratyahar, there is a unique dimension that is to be understood, that there are dynamics behind yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahar. And the antaranga of Ashtanga is based on D-dynamics. Not only that there are no dynamics, but there are D-dynamics. And clue to this, we got it in asana itself. When the asana is proficiently accomplished, prayatna shaithilyam was the concept given. That means there are D-dynamics. The dynamics are ended, and not only ended, but that there are D-dynamics. So restraint or chitta vritti nirodha has D-dynamics and not dynamics. You can't have dynamics for chitta vritti nirodha. It's not that you do this and this and this and this and this and then your chitta will be restrained. After doing all that, there needs to be something called as D-dynamics. So, up to pratyahara, it can be characteristically seen that there are body dynamics, mind dynamics, breath dynamics, psyche consciousness dynamics. That means there is something to do. And then there are karmic dynamics. So several dynamics are there. Psychodynamics, biodynamics, physiodynamics, karmic dynamics. So we have to do so many things in the initial aspects of our yoga and practices of yoga. Basically, we have to decide to commence our yoga. We have to determine to do the yoga. So there are certain dynamics, will, volition, intent, diligence, then kriyas of body, mind, and breath. So then there are kriyas of body, mind, breath, senses, psyche, consciousness. There's something that they have to do and something that they should not do. So that's how the sets of Bahiranga are composed by do's and don'ts. And when the yoga is entering the realm of Antaranga, for which Pratyahara is the threshold, then all these dynamics they fall off. And then what gets commenced is D-dynamics. It's not just end of doing and not doing, but there is something of the nature of D-dynamics for chitta vritti nirodha or the restraint. So, for we the common people, we can have example of sleep, because sleep is a kind of restraint for us. So, for getting sleep, we have to do certain things, and we do certain things, precautions, certain measures we apply to be getting sleep. And all that ends, but then the sleep doesn't ensue. Something has to happen for sleep to really actualize. And if you recall, we had mentioned during the Nidra Vritti, describing Sushupti, that the mind has to enter a nerve called pericardium according to neurology. And according to yoga, the chitta has to enter Puritat Nadi. So, when that Puritat Nadi, entering of it is not volitional act. You can't push it into Puritat Nadi, nor can you push your mind into pericardium nerve, as the neurology speaks about. So that is something which is in the realm of happenings. So the cause and effect ends, because the cause will have effects. But then effects have something to follow, which is called consequence. And these are happenings. And therefore, the happenings are important. And when Pratyahar onwards, it is all of the nature of happenings. And as long as there is doing in Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, it is Bahiranga. So as long as you are doing something for your sleep, it is your activity to be getting sleep. It is not sleep by itself. It is an activity, it's an enunciation, it's a commencement, it's an orientation to be getting sleep, such as secure that all the doors are closed, switch off the lights, whatever precautions have to be taken, take those precautions, and then get onto your bed and switch off your lights. And then sleep coming is not in our hands, but all precautions are in our hands to ensure that we might get sleep. But getting sleep is not our purushartha. It is not human endeavor to get a sleep. Sleep is happening, but we have to do so many things for the sleep to happen. You can't keep all the doors open and not secure your house and keep all the lights on, lights burning, and then you cannot expect the sleep to come. So we'll have to take all those precautions. So even for Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, which we call as meditation, if we are doing something, then it is still a Bahiranga. But when Pratyahar happens, then all the senses depart from their supports, all the five cognitive senses, cognitive senses, and even internal sense of mind, it also disengages itself from, they disengage themselves from their objects. Like the eyes and ears have objects, the mind also has objects. Psychic consciousness has some objects. So when they, in Pratyahar, all the Indriyas, gross to subtle, they all disembark from their usual supports, which are in a wakeful state and in normal walk of life and a wakeful state of consciousness. And that disengagement is a launch of Pratyahar, and that's the twilight condition. That's why it is called threshold. Pratyahar is threshold. Therefore, thereafter, after Pratyahar, yogi doesn't do dharana. Dharana happens. Yogi doesn't do dharana dhyana. Dharana dhyana happens. Yogi doesn't do dharana dhyana samadhi. They happen. So until that time, if the yogi is doing something, it is all Bahiranga. That is all Bahiranga aspects of yoga. But Antaranga aspects are all of the nature of happenings. Even karmic dynamics don't work. Your karmic baggage will not really influence you. That is the yogi. So that's why it is antaranga of yoga, and bahiranga ends with pratyahar. Rather, pratyahar is a threshold, and that is why very rightfully, very logically, Patanjali has terminated the second chapter called Sadhanapada with pratyahar. Despite the fact that three of the angas are not mentioned in the Sadhanapad, simply for the reason I just now said, that they are not the means to be handled, but they are consequential things. They are happenings. And that is why they are fructification of your pratyahar. So it should be noted that when yogi's pratyahar has accomplished, fructified, there is no chance that yogi has not entered the dharana dhyan. Like we end our asana practice, like we end our pranayam practice, yogi can never end pratyahar practice. When the pratyahar is ripe, invariably the mind will enter the realm of antaranga. That is dharana dhyan samadhi. Not having entered that, pratyahar is not complete, is not accomplished. The completion of pratyahar itself means there is already an onset of antaranga in the form of dharana. It is not that yogi decides to do pratyahar up to pratyahar practice in the morning and then in the evening decides to do dharana dhyan samadhi. It cannot be like that. We have seen during Pranayam Sutra that there is a corridor. Pranayam itself lays a corridor, and then it is uninterrupted up to pratyahar. Then there is natural entry into antaranga dharana. It may not every time accomplish. So when it is accomplished, that is called sanyama. Many times the dharana is launched, but for some reason it is revoked. It is interrupted. So when it is not interrupted, when it is accomplished, then it takes you from yogis from dharana to dhyan to samadhi, and that's why it is called samyama, a technical term which comes later in the third chapter. So the point is, it is not interrupted at pratyahar. It is right that the chapter has ended with pratyahar, because pratyahar is always studied, composed, constituted by dynamics. Like body dynamics, breath dynamics, mind dynamics, sense dynamics, chitta dynamics, karmic dynamics. Up to karmic dynamics, they are constituting these sadhanas, bahiranga aspects. And therefore, it is very perfectly right and logical that Vibhuti-pada commences with Dharana Sutra. Okay.
Yes. So as the Vibhuti-pada begins, Atha Vibhuti-pada Strutiyah, Vyasa begins by saying, he says, Uktani Pancha Bahirangani Sadhanani. This is the 5 Bahirangas have been mentioned among the means, the sadhans. Now the next one begins. So since today we have looked at a full overview of the Sadhanapada and we have had an introduction to the Vibhuti-pada, we will stop here today and start the actual sutra in the next session so that we can take those one after another. So we'll stop at this point for today. Recite the shlokas on Guruji. And next time we'll begin with Sutra 3.1, the first sutra of the Vibhuti-pada. Let's recite the shlokas on Guruji. Vaijñānikam pravaktritva आसनेषु कलाविदम् योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञम् वन्देऽहं सुन्दरं गुरुम् योगवृक्षो हि लोकेऽस्मिन् यत्प्रेरणेन वर्धितः योगाचार्यगुरो तुभ्यं सुन्दराय नमो नमः. Thank you.
Namaskar.